right, bang, bang. Let's get it. Week 13 NFL is here and upon us. This video you are going to get. We're going to break down every position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, even the vaunted defenses that we have been on fire. For some reason, our punt defenses, our cheap Ds every week just go off. So without further ado, welcome in Dustin Reed and Price. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, buddy? Good to be back on the pod this week.
Yeah, my man missed the PGA pod this week. It looks like you got a little essential oil in the background. What you got cooking back there?
For sinuses.
So no like frankincense or
No, just some breathe. Help me out. I'd die in the wintertime. It's awful.
So Dustin has his Texas shirt on. Colt McCoy just so happens to play this week as well and start.
That's right.
Is that the lock of the week? Oh, Colt McCoy, if he would have played in the 2009 championship game, they would have beat Alabama, I believe. That's what Texas says.
I firmly believe that. And
is he gonna win someone $1 million this week?
To be determined.
No shit. Way to take a stance there, Dustin.
All right. You're rubbing off on them.
All right, let's jump in. Just a quick glance at the slate. It's an interesting slate, right? You have the over-unders, not a ton of just popping out. Am I right? The highest over-under game is the Browns and Titans. Am I looking at that right? Because they both run the ball and they both want to run the ball. So that's how funky of a slate it is if I'm looking at this correctly. I think.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Browns and Titans, highest over under.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Isn't that wild?
The next one is the Jags Vikings.
I told you I do like this Viking stack. Well, we're not one of the stacks, but let's jump into the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks here. So, Price, start us out. Who do you like?
So the first one that popped into my eye on like the Sunday evening, Monday morning was Deshaun Watson. And then we got the news that Will Fuller has been cheating and is now suspended the rest of the year.
Accidentally cheating.
Yeah, him and Bradley Roby, both the Texans' best defensive player, in the secondary decided to accidentally shoot themselves up with stuff. But so with that news, I'm kind of iffy on him, but I love Aaron Rodgers. 6,800 doesn't make sense. Like Justin Herbert should not be more expensive than Aaron Rodgers. Does not make sense. I feel like it seems like his floor is like 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. And we said at the beginning of the year when they, kind of screwed him over in the draft by not giving him any help. He's just on a mission to destroy the league. I know you like your boy Taysom. He's in another good spot. He did, well last week. They didn't have to throw very much with him playing wide receiver at quarterback on the other team. And then cheap guy, I'm going to your boy, Mitchell Trubisky. He's only 5,400. Good matchup. He lit Detroit up in the beginning of the season. I think they played week 1. I mean, he was god awful Sunday night. Like just played awful and still put up 22 fantasy points. So if he cleans up that a little bit, I mean, he gets you 25 points. That's almost 5x, which is huge, I think. And with Detroit being able to score on the Chicago defense, I feel like him and A-Robert's going to go off this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on a lot of those. Aaron Rodgers, we disagree on, but you're probably right. But I'm still going to disagree with you. Philly held Russell Wilson to 14 fantasy points, and Russell Wilson is our highest projected quarterback here at 7,700 salary. I do like him this week. I'm going to fully fade Kyler Murray. He has an injury. Looks like he's questionable as well. At least it has it by his name, so that might drive down ownership a little bit. But he's had a couple of really bad games, and he's going against the Rams. The Rams defense is for real, 100%. So I'm inclined to fade him and Hopkins as well this week. just fully fade at 7,600. There's better value down there. But, Rodgers, yes, he's putting up 28, 30 points a game. And I don't think the weather, 15-mile-per-hour wind, it looks like freezing temperatures, but he's done that his whole career. So that's not too much to worry about. And yes, for the price, he is undervalued. So someone I'm more looking into personally, cash, because of the game stack. To me, I don't like as much as some of the other games. So personally, for me right now, I'm looking more Rodgers as a cash play. I agree, though. Herbert should not be 100 more than Rodgers at all. And if you go down, the one that stuck out to me initially was Taysom Hill, 6,300. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. I really do, just a tad cheaper. And I don't know if it's a plus or a negative that he played Atlanta a couple weeks ago. He did put up 25 points against them, but he was 4,800. Sean Payton just loves Taysom Hill, just loves this kid. And all I know for sure with Taysom Hill is that he's not going to be throwing the ball to Kamara for whatever reason. So I'm fully off Kamara, but he gets the rushing upside there. The last 2 games, he's had 2 rushing touchdowns, not 1, but 2. He's averaging 10 attempts a game. So I feel like he has a high floor. Once again, that could be another good cash play, and not necessarily a GPP. But that's kind of on the upper end that I'm liking and digging early on. But yeah, I said early this year as well, Mitch Trubisky, before he got benched, is going to win somebody $1 million, and this could be the week you pair him up with Allen Robinson. So I'm with you there, Price, with big old Mitch. And that's kind of how I see it as well. We're not too far off, a couple little differences here and there, but early on, this is what I'm looking at. What about you, D. Reed?
Yeah, so a little rebuttal on your Aaron Rodgers slight, with the Eagles holding Russ down. Well, Russell still had over 100, QB rating, 110, I think.
Well, hold up. How much quarterback rating? How many? Hey, Bryce, let me know. How many DraftKings points does quarterback rating give you?
Well, if you let me finish,
0.25.
If you let me finish, you'll understand where I'm going here, and then you can take that foot out of your mouth. So,
this better be good. It better be biblical.
So if you actually watch the game, I mean, Philadelphia couldn't move it on my grandma if she was on the front 7. They couldn't throw the ball. They couldn't run the ball. So Seattle had no reason to chunk it all over the place. They ran more than they have all year, which in turn obviously means that the quarterback is not going to get as many points, right? So
100%. You're making my case for me.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that Philly couldn't move the ball. They in Seattle just ran it all over them. Well, guess what? The Packers don't care. They're going to run the points up, just like they did on Chicago. They scored 41. They're going to keep throwing. Aaron Rodgers loves to throw touchdowns, even on the 1 and 2 yard line. So, pretty good floor. Obviously, every week he's had one bad week. 1 week where he hasn't returned over 3x, and that was against Tampa in that weird game, 4 or 5 weeks ago. So that's my rebuttal on Rodgers there.
Well, hold on. Can I come back before you start moving on? Because sure. I think your rebuttal of Rodgers, of Seattle not having to throw the ball because they were up so big, the blowout potential is there, and so that's once again a notch against Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, for a high upside.
They just blew out Chicago.
Yeah, I understand that.
4 touchdowns.
It's a difference in offensive philosophies as well, because Seattle forever has been run
forever,
first.
But not this year.
This is the first year where Russell's been throwing a lot.
Well, the running backs have been hurt too.
But their philosophy is just, throw it to DK, and then when they get up, just let Carson run or Hyde or whoever they have healthy. But there's only been one game where Green Bay really relied on the run, and that was against Detroit. And Rodgers still went 3x that game.
Well, I would say a couple things with like the 3x for quarterbacks. Like most quarterbacks are going to 3x their price. Is that not correct? Like
Except
90% of the
Lamar.
time, I think a 3x is like a baseline for a quarterback position.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I was saying-
So, but what's more fantasy points? Rodgers 3x or Trubisky 3x?
It's
No.
it's whatever their quarterback rating is. Honestly,
but
like,
but
look,
that's
I get
but
it.
that's his
I don't
floor.
disagree. No, I don't disagree, and I'm saying he's a fine play. I personally like him in cash. I'm not as high of a GPP play this week for me, but I like him in cash. He has a really high floor. I don't disagree.
I'm just confused why you don't like the best quarterback in the league.
You talking about Colt McCoy?
Anyway, let me move on. Get my picks in here.
Well, hold up, Dustin. How quarterback rating? How many points are we getting for that?
As many as you want. My point was he didn't play bad, which is you made it sound like he didn't do well versus the Eagles defense.
Yeah, no, that's a good. It's a good point.
Our viewers astray, I got to set the tone straight. Kirk Cousins been playing really well. I think he's somebody that you could take a flyer on. But Dalvin Cook probably gonna have a rushing touchdown this game, especially after the flop last week. So worries me a little bit. Taysom, I think he is a fine cash play just because of his running ability. And it's kind of tough because we didn't get to see his throwing potential last week because they were just, obviously Denver had their wide receiver practice squad guy playing quarterback. So it'll be interesting seeing them play Atlanta, second time in 3 weeks, how the defense adjusts to that style of play. So still interesting there. I like Fitz at 6K if Tua sits. He came in and he looked really good against the Jets, obviously. Kind of another one of those games where they got up and didn't have to chunk it a ton, but he still threw two touchdowns, I believe. So getting a little pricey up there at 6K. I think it's the highest he's been all year, but he definitely has the potential, the gunslinger mentality. And then as far as a low guy, it's tough down here. Part of me wants to say, a Jared Goff, even though he's not super low at 5,800, has the potential, has the weapons. And they're playing Arizona, who just looked awful against New England. So, you figure they come out playing a little better. So, I'll stick to Aaron Rodgers in my cash game, but in my GPP, I'll kind of venture around a little bit. There's some value to be had this week with all the injuries.
For sure. Now let's move on to running back. Dustin, start us off at the running back spot this week.
Well, you got the elephant in the room there at the top, Dalvin Cook, 9,500. He was 80+% owned in my double ups last week, and he completely, for his price, flopped. And another great matchup. He obviously was playing, had a juicy matchup last week. It's just as juicy of a matchup this week. He probably turns it around. It's just hard to play those 90 because you had Kamara a couple weeks ago that was 9K, flopped. Did Dalvin Cook last week, 9K plus and flopped. So it's kind of one of those deals. Do you want to pay that far up and with the potential of it not paying off when it's not going to hurt you as bad if you have a 6K guy that does that? So that'll be the interesting. Obviously Henry and Cook, league's leader in rushing, touchdowns 1 and 2. They're obviously 92 and 95 for a reason. Gotta like them. Chubb, we were all about last week and didn't disappoint. The dude's 100 yards rushing machine every game. Tennessee shouldn't be any different. So I like him. James Robinson, man, the guy's just volume. I'll skip some of these others to give you all a chance to talk about them. But kind of looking down at the bottom, it's kind of getting a little tough to find a ton of value. You got Wayne Gallman, who's up to 5,600. Seattle's got a pretty good front seven. And then you got Colt McCoy back there. So I don't really like him too much this week. Montgomery is a little intriguing. Had a good game against Green Bay. coming off that concussion. Had a week off and looked good. Looked good in the passing game. Had some good rushing. Had a 50-yard rush, I think, at one point. So Detroit obviously gives it up a little bit. So I like him down there at 5,500. Kareem Hunt is only 5,400. He's one of those guys that has big games every now and then, and so maybe take a flyer on him to steal a touchdown or catch some passes and score. Hines, obviously, if Taylor is out, but you got some guys down here like a Chase Edmonds is 4,900 that, depending on how the game turns out, could always get some, but just his volume fluctuates so much this year that it's kind of tough to trust him. So you got Frank Gore down there. I talked him up last week. People made fun of me, and he hit value. I think he was 3x. Let me look at him here.
2.7.
2.7. So he's close. Didn't bust by any means. So had they been a little more competitive, I think he would have scored a little more points. But he's going to get 80% of the volume. So if he gets a touchdown, you're good. Price.
Yeah. Go ahead, Price.
I'll let Chris go first.
I was just gonna add a couple of small. I think Dustin was spot on with his analysis there. Hines is the cheap play. If Jonathan Taylor with COVID is still not playing. The Texans, Price's boys, 32nd in yards per carry allowed and 31st in rushing yards per game allowed. So lock and load in cash and GPP for Hines once again at 5,300 to me is a lock. If dependent on Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's
he
back.
just got activated from the COVID list. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but
that's kind
if
of.
it is a high-scoring
like that.
game, Hines still is a decent play because Hines will play in passing situations.
His ownership should probably go down too with that news.
Yep.
What about Price Gio Bernard, who with Mixon out, he didn't really get any love or touches last week. Where are you at with him at 5,200? He should be intriguing. The Dolphins do have a pretty good defense, but the stats say that they're 29th in yards per carry allowed, and they're 25th in rushing yards per game. So they're against their run stats are not the best, and Mixon's out.
I know, but their offensive line is so bad though that they don't create any holes. I watched a little bit of the game, and I actually watched him drop to. He was wide open for first downs and just missed the ball, which is very unusual for him. But you would think he'd get more, like the few weeks ago where he had like 13, 15 carries and then still had 5-6 targets. Like that would be more in line as opposed to last week where he only had 8 carries. So, I mean, if you give him 15 carries, he should average roughly 4 yards a carry. So there's 6 points and he gets 4 catches for 40 yards. He hits value. So I think it makes sense as long as, again, even if they don't keep it close, he's going to be the guy who they chuck down to. So I think he's a pretty solid value at 5,200, especially if you don't really want to mess with Hines or Taylor because of you don't know what their roles are going to be. I mean, there's no reason that he's cheaper than someone like Devontae Booker. Like that doesn't make sense.
Nope.
And then what do you think about Ito Smith? If Gurley's out,
they split it a lot though. I mean, Brian Hill still got 13 carries. I think Ito got 12. He obviously has a little more in the passing game, and New Orleans just wrecked them last time. So, I don't know. They got 8 sacks, I think. It's hard to get anything going when they're constantly in the backfield. A little scary for me.
You know what's crazy is I'm really contemplating playing Kamara in GPPs now that he's 7,000. He's 100 more than Alexander Madison.
Yeah, why? I don't know why Alexander Madison's always so high.
I guess in case Dobbins has a soft tissue injury in practice or something, but
I guess
it makes no sense to have him priced that high. I'll never understand that, but I first look Love James Robinson. Nick Chubb's probably a little too expensive for me because at some point he's not going to have 140 yards rushing. And he does not play at all in the passing situations, which sucks because I think he was at least a decent receiver in college. Henry got such a big price jump this week. It's super disappointing because you can't really cram him in. But I love Eckler. I switched to him last week in my main lineup. He led the entire league with 16 targets. Like, where was that in the beginning of the year when they refused to check the ball down to him? He literally he'd run 4 yards, turn around, and Herbert would just, here you go make a play. So you get someone who's going to get you 60, 70 yards rushing and also get 10 targets a game. That was where Kamara was with Drew Brees. And so you get basically, Kamara light with him. And I know you said you're going to full fade Kamara, Chris, but at some point he has to get involved in the offense, right? I mean, he's probably their best skill position player. I know Michael Thomas got a ton of money, but Kamara is so lethal out of the backfield. Like, you would think he'd get some looks.
Yeah, he's not 3 targets in the 2 games. It's kind of, you figure they would just get him something just because.
I feel like there should be a regression to the mean, and in a spot where most people are like, no, I don't want to touch Kamara because he hasn't done well, and Latavius just popped off last week. It could be a fantastic leverage spot in GPPs, I think.
Yeah, I think in the GPPs and MME entries, I think he's a part of the player pool 100%. But if you're doing a single core, personally, I'm not that far yet. Let's jump to wide receiver. Naturally, y'all are probably going to have to play Devontae Adams since you're wanting to stack with Aaron Rodgers. So we'll move down from that. I'm just joking. But DK Metcalf has been on a tear. He's had a couple of bad games. 8,200 against the Giants could be a fun matchup there. There's a few players that I'm all on. I'll let Dustin talk about Cooks, go in a little bit more depth, but I'm all on him as well. I think we all are on board there without Will Fuller. But there's a few people that I'm fully fading, like D-Hop this game versus the Rams. Really good defense. Ramsey. Kyler's not looking as good. 7,800. I'm gonna fully fade him. I would rather have like a Keenan Allen or Lockett or somebody like that. And then trying to figure out, talking about the Rams, their passing core of Kupp and Woods, trying to figure out who's going to get the ball there against Arizona, who likes to blitz a lot, and Goff, I think, can struggle versus the blitz. He's not that type of quarterback, so I'm not looking towards them. So I know who I'm not wanting to target this week. I'm really intrigued by the Minnesota receivers, both of them. But let me hear what you have to say, Dustin. Where are you at here with this wide receiver crew?
Yeah, so this week there really isn't like the juicy matchups that we like. You got Green Bay playing Philly, you got Seattle playing the Giants, and maybe it's the NFC, my Cowboys division that is ruining the slate. But so it's hard to see any type of just bombs away in those 2 games, right? The Giants, obviously, without Daniel Jones, even with them, weren't super lethal. And then Wentz has just been bad, right? And then, you got Keenan Allen in a good spot against New England, unless they maybe shift over Gilmore to play on him, which, is always a possibility. And then you have the daunted Bill Belichick taking your best player away type of deal, which is why I think Price really likes Mr. Eckler at the running back. Hopkins in a tough matchup there against the Rams and Ramsey. A.J. Brown, he's one of those players that always flies under the radar and has huge games every now and then, but he can also be one that burns you. So to me, I'm kind of the first one that really entices me, and it's because he dropped in price, is Michael Thomas. You look a couple of weeks ago against the Atlanta, 12 targets, he went over 100 yards, 3x. He was 7,300, I think, back then. So you got to feel like the volume's going to be there again. And because last week he had 6 targets and they threw the ball like 12 times. So he's still getting all the shares of the throws, and he's going to score a touchdown. So I like Michael Thomas there at 7,000, even though, Taysom isn't your prototypical Drew Brees type quarterback. He can throw a 10-yard hitch to Michael Thomas 10 times. So I like him. Jefferson, Thielen, it's kind of hard to say which one, because it's usually Thielen catching touchdowns and Jefferson, popping off for the long ones. So that one's kind of tough. Is Thielen, Jefferson, and Cook going to go off? No. So you got to kind of figure out matchups, game flow, who you think is going to, be the guy. Which, I guess they all three could, but it's probably not going to happen. I think A-Rob, like Price touched on, I think, or you. He's in a good spot. He's in a good price. 6,700 is going to see a ton of volume. Obviously, Trubisky has a little bit of rapport with him. Parker, great game last week. 13 targets. Basically the only healthy wide receiver there. No Gaskin last week. No, Preston Williams, and what's that slots guy's name?
Grant
was banged up with the groin. So there's a little bit of value here. Cup dropped to 6,100. Cooks at 5,600, I think, is a great play because the Texans have nobody. They don't throw their tight ends that much. You obviously have Will Fuller gone, and then you have Cobb that's out with injury. So Cook is really the only one left to throw to that's really good. He had a great catch last week, hit 85 yards 2 games in a row. I think we see his volume rise to 10 plus targets. So I really like him. I'll let y'all dig into some of the other ones, but Chris, who pops off to you?
Yeah, I would say Allen Robinson is the biggest one, and then Brandon Cooks. But what about you, Price?
So I just went to look at Houston's, like, who they have. Some dude named Isaiah Coulter from Rhode Island. Luckily,
Baller.
Chris likes to have this website we use where you can see their college and combine stats, and he ran a 4.45 540 at 6'2", 198 pounds. So
he's a flyer.
Will Fuller Jr. No, but the first one that really popped off to me is Jefferson. I know Chris loves this kid. We talked about him last week. He's just, how unfair was that LSU offense last year? Let's be real. Jefferson is just a monster. And finally, Cousins has played decent. I love the talk of Parker. He's just a target hog. And that's what you really want for a receiver. That's why we've always been on Deontay Johnson from the Steelers. You want someone who's going to get a bunch of targets. Cooper Kupp, 6,100, super cheap. He's just
up and down.
I know. He goes 6 targets, 21 targets, 7 targets, 13 targets, 5. Like roller coaster.
It's not him so much as his damn quarterback. Like
I think I'm gonna try and fit Michael Pittman into my main lineup. He's been getting a bunch of, like, his worst week in the last month was last week. He had 9 targets. He just, it wasn't there, but he's been really good. They're implementing him on the offense. Hilton had a random, outburst last game where he caught a 50-yard pass and then a touchdown. But, Pittman's been pretty solid, and Houston lost their best cornerback. He's also out for the rest of the year. So that means everyone's going to have to shift over. And so Pittman should do well. I would imagine Houston still will score. Your boy Denzel Mims, only 4,100.
Yep.
He's 8 targets the last 3 weeks, like clockwork. I believe he's top 5 or top 8 in the league in air yards. In the same period, he also has drawn a bunch of pass interferences down the field.
I was about to say he probably has 200 pass interference yards the past 2 games.
Oh, man. T. Higgins, only 4,600. another cheap guy who we talked about it last week for the Bengals. Like one of the Green, Higgins, Boyd had to do well, and it was Higgins, and he went down in price, which I don't know. Allen Robinson, of course. I like Trubisky. He's going to force feed Robinson the ball, and then I would love to play Ridley if Julio's back, but I think we've seen that without a healthy Julio, their offense is garbage. But other than that, I feel like we're pretty similar on everybody else.
Tell me how and this is for one of our subs, Cam, out there. Tell me how Travis Fulgham went up in price.
I mean, he did have 2 targets.
I know. He went up 100 off of two targets, 2 receptions game.
It's almost to the point where I like Miles Sanders. He's explosive. I don't want any part of that freaking offense besides the tight end. And that's just because he's cheap. Yeah. Once Goddard is no longer one of the cheaper tight ends, I don't want him either. And if Ertz is back, they're all off the list until they put in Chris's boy, Jalen Hurts.
He's not my boy. But you just started talking about tight ends. Let's move on to the tight end section. Kelsey, I don't see him on over here. So
Darren Waller week, right?
No.
What could go wrong?
No, I know. Stop. Talk about, didn't Darren Waller go up 100 points after last week's terrible performance?
Yeah.
Talk about. Ugh. I mean, he did have 7 targets, but 4 catches, 23 yards. Like literally, this guy can just catch like 5 balls for 20 yards. It's insane.
I'm sick of the target stuff with Waller. I mean, I'm sick of he's only 3x 3 times all year. Give him 100 targets. Does that mean he didn't do anything with them? It's crazy.
Yeah. It's either Travis Kelce or punting tight end. But even with that said, like I've made a lot of money with TJ Hawkinson because all he does is catch touchdown passes. Evan Ingram and Hunter Henry are intriguing as well. And then your boy Goddard, he's getting 4,300, not pretty good price there. Gesicki for Miami, he's actually been going pretty good lately. His targets probably 5 targets, yeah, so 5 targets. He had a touchdown last week, but he's intriguing. He can have explosive games. He has upside. So I like that. But where are y'all at? Y'all see any of those cheap value plays this week?
I see Disley went up price.
I like Tanyan at 3,700. Him and then Dustin's sneaky call last week who went up some. Eifert's still only 3,000. He should have had a second touchdown. He dropped it. So, I mean, he's 5 targets a week for 3,000.
Yeah. I like usually I don't like games that have like a 10 point spread. But I like this Jags Minnesota game for stacking purpose. I really am intrigued by this game. I don't know. It's catching my eye big time.
What about Jordan Akins?
Yeah, I was going to say your Houston tight ends. Surely they got to see.
I don't like Fells, but Akins he dropped 2 touchdowns last week. Right off his hands, dropped them. There's zero reason for that to happen. Otherwise, he's not 2,900. And with Fuller out, Cobb out, and they cut Kenny Stills randomly. So they don't have anybody. And that could be a really sneaky play, especially in the red zone, because the receivers they have are small. Like Cooks is like 5'8", Kute is like 5'5".
Yeah.
They got to throw to someone big, and that could be a really good play where you're going to get him lined up in the slot a lot is what it looks like they're talking about doing with him. And so if you give me someone who's, 6'5", 260 pounds operating the slot who can just outmuscle everybody already, like that's a pretty solid play at 2,900, I think.
Awesome. Well, we talked a lot of good punt plays for tight end, and we've been really money this year is punt plays on defense. Before we get into defense, though, be sure to check us out, dfsstats.com. Hit the like button. If you watch this far and you haven't smashed that like button, what are you doing? Be sure to subscribe as well. We appreciate it. Give out a lot of free content as well over at Twitter and Facebook, the DFS Dads. We do we give you 3 different captain options and then a cash score. So follow the socials. Price, Dustin, I mean, we are on fire every week. Bang, bang, every week with the defense. And we had a big issue last week. Not issue, but and both defenses worked out. You wanted to play the Saints defense because they were playing a guy off the street, a salesman off the street. They paid off. I think they scored 15 fantasy points, which is really good for defense. Then you wanted to go down to the Jets, who once again 3x'd for us. So I think they scored 9 points. Was it 9? I can't remember. 9 points. So not as many points, but they were 2,100 compared to 3,800 it was for the Saints last week.
Yeah, they actually exceeded their value. So the Jets returned 4.3 and the Saints only returned 3.7. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, it was better to actually play the Jets.
So with that said, is there ever a reason to play up on defense? If that wasn't the reason.
Only if you have the Steelers playing against Robert Griffin III.
No, I mean, I guess the downside, the top end defenses usually won't get you negative points, but you even look at the Browns last week, who were playing Jacksonville and got 0. You know, they were 3,100, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think if anything, for this year, I mean, punting on a defense for the most part has paid big dividends for us.
And I'm doing it again this week. Going right back to the well. The Jets are still 2,100. They're playing the Raiders, who just got demolished by the Falcons. They gave the Falcons defense scored like 28 points on them.
Yeah.
So hopefully Derek Carr sucks again. Their wide receivers are god awful. Henry Ruggs sucks. Edwards sucks. Aguilar is awful. Renfro is like a midget out there. All they do is cover Waller.
20 catches for 10 yards, so you're good there.
As long as you score and get up on him, Josh Jacobs gets pulled out of the game to play Devontae Booker.
Well, he's hurt too. He sprained his ankle or something. That's why Booker was a little bit more pricey.
Jacobs is always hurt.
Yeah. But yeah,
he was hurt in college too.
The Jets.
All right, so are we all on board for the Jets again this week so far?
Yeah, even the Lions at 2,500 against your boy Mitchell. I mean, Mitchell might get the points that y'all think, but he's also probably going to turn the ball over.
I know, but the Lions defense is just so god awful.
I know, but they I know they are terrible.
I think I'm going back to the well. Going back to the well.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah. How's your breathing, Price? You made it through a whole pod. Good.
Yeah. Sorry I wasn't here Monday.
PGA show was definitely lacking without our host there, Price.
Unfortunately, the last day of the month in sales, I don't get to leave until the last customer leaves, and I didn't get home until 2 hours after we start recording.
All right. Appreciate y'all watching. We're going to go talk about our favorite stacks. So you want to come back for that. Be sure to sub. Follow your boys. Leave us some comments. Make fun of Dustin because he thinks QBR points equate to DraftKings points. Let's go make some money.